That remains. Plus the which I noticed right away.
The time is now 7:04. I'd like to call the Beloit City Council meeting to order at this time. Can we have a roll call, please?
Roll call shows all councilors are present except Councilor Forbeck.
Thank you. Item 2 is Pledge of Allegiance. Will you all stand, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 is special orders of the day and announcements. We have none this evening. Item 4 is public hearings. Item 4A, please.
4A is a consideration of a resolution approving the vacation of a part of Maple Avenue right-of-way and authorizing the release of utility easements adjacent to the property located at 1500 4th Street in the city of Beloit, Rock County, Wisconsin.
Mrs. Christensen, please.
So the proposed area to be vacated is 3,439 square feet in area, and it is access right-of-way that is a remnant of the prior alignment of Maple Avenue's intersection with 4th Street. So the intent is to vacate the right-of-way and attach that piece of land to the adjacent parcel, which would accommodate the proposed school district of Beloit administrative offices and the Welcome Center. This did go out to the city's review agents, which includes the stormwater engineer, AT&T, and Charter, who noted the presence of buried utility lines in and near the affected area. There's an existing storm sewer main that will be relocated at the applicant's expense as a condition of development approval, which you will see in the resolution on 12A. Charter's fiber line has been located at the back inside edge of the bike path and should not conflict with this project, but will need to be marked and protected. And AT&T's line has been located in the terrace area, will not be affected. There were no other comments or concerns. Plan Commission reviewed this item on February 7, 2018, and voted unanimously to recommend approval of this vacation.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing on item 4A. This evening, if anyone would like to speak on item 4A, please step forward, give your name and address for the record. Anyone wishing to speak on item 4A this evening? Second call, anyone wishing to speak on item 4A this evening? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak on item 4A this evening? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing on item 4A and entertain a motion from council. Is there such a motion for approval? Motion by Duncan. Is there a second? Second by Blakely. Any questions or comments at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval of item 4A say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 6-0. Item 5, public comments. We've reached a point on the agenda where citizens may come forward and address anything that's not on the agenda. Councilors are usually not respond, but if there's a question that we may have, we may follow up with that. We do ask you to limit your comments to at least 3 minutes. I will not cut you off, but I will give you a friendly reminder. However, any personal attack on counselors, staff, or anyone else, I would ask you to sit down immediately. At this time, we do have one person that completed a form. If you did not fill out a form, you still may speak at this time. The individual that would like to speak tonight is Mr. Phil Wilson. Would you please step forward and give your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, I'm Phil Wilson. My address is 1035 Pleasant Street, apartment 3414. I'm going to speak a little bit tonight about 3 things: my mental health and illegal drugs that I hate so much, and gangs. And I'll first start out talking about my mental health. It started in 1977 at Norwood. In Marshfield in Wisconsin, when I told them I couldn't talk. They said, "You can talk fine." But I never heard of the word communication, personality, or anything like that at that time. And then along the way, and I'm still involved in it, and along the way I learned that I had a major personality disorder. And I'm also speaking to people that might be watching on television also tonight, because I finally went down to Rockford, talked to R.T. Hamill. He was my psychiatrist down there, And he said, Phil, if you don't have a manic depressive disorder, and this was in 78, 79, I don't know what you have. And he hit it right on the stone. And most of us people that do have mental health problems are good people. But just a few people, hopefully the one down in Florida will be the last big shooting we have in America. We've had enough of them.
Okay.
And I'll talk about illegal drugs that I hate so much, and they just don't realize what they're doing to their brain. It's the only brain they're going to ever have, and I hope maybe tonight some people will learn that they're ignorant of their kids or even adults that are taking those drugs. And sometimes I heard that heroin can be given as heroin dealers and pushers can give out drugs that are elephant tranquilizers. They're 100 times stronger than heroin. And I'm a little ignorant about that kind of stuff. But gangs, I'm ignorant of those too, pretty much. But I'd like Beloit to be a better community. I think it's a good community now. I think we got a lot of good folks on the staff here at the City Hall and the City Council, and as well as the police department. We got a good chief there, and we got a good fire chief, and with people that work for him. We got a good team in Beloit.
Okay.
So I'll close with that mode, and I won't get kicked by Kevin now. He said he don't have to tackle me now.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak under public comments this evening? Third and final call. Anyone else wishing to speak under public comments this evening? Seeing none, I would close that portion of the agenda. And in the essence of the wonderful weather that we're having outside, and we have a presenter here that's from out of town, and at this time I would like to move up items 12B through 12I in this portion of the agenda and have our Finance Director, Mr. Eric Miller, come forward, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate you moving the agenda up too. So as part of our budget process each year, we put together a capital improvement plan, which of course includes all of our capital improvement and capital improvement items that we are looking to accomplish this year. And so in order to finance that plan, we have to issue debt, and the issuance is in the form of notes and bonds, both in general obligation and in revenue bonds. So the initial resolutions that are before you tonight is the first step in issuing those notes and bonds. And so with me tonight, I have Dawn Gunderson with Ehlers and Associates, and she will present and walk you through the pre-sale reports.
Thank you.
Thank you. As you noted, there are several items on your agenda, 12B through 12I. As Eric mentioned, this is to finance your 2018 capital projects. There are any projects that are supported with levy dollars, and also projects that are supported and are being undertaken for your water utility and your sewer utility. So your bond attorney, Quarles and Brady, has prepared these resolutions as the initial set sail. And there are actually 4 separate debt issues that will be issued. One, a general obligation promissory note, which is Resolution 12B in the amount of $2,160,000. That's for all the projects that are being amortized over a 10-year time frame or less. And then 12C through 12F. When you issue general obligation bonds, those are projects that are being financed that have a longer life expectancy and are being financed over up to 20 years. Those are issued under state statute by purpose. So as initial set sail, you're authorizing a resolution for each purpose. So 12C is for the purpose of financing your street improvement projects for $2,455,000. 12D is to finance community development projects for $225,000. 12E is for park and public grounds projects for $405,000. And 12F is for fire department projects for $235,000. All of those then are combined into one resolution for the authorization and for the notification that will be published in the paper for a bond issue in an amount not to exceed $3,320,000. So all of those previous items are rolled up into that one authorization for that bond size. And then 12H is related to your water utility projects, and 12I is related to your sewer utility projects. Now, the reason those two have been pulled out separate, the promissory notes and the bond issue are general obligation. So even if you were not paying the debt service with this, you're pledging your tax base. So you're pledging your general obligation property tax base as the source of security to the buyers of these bonds. Now, for your water projects, you're pledging your water utility revenues. And your sewer projects, you're pledging your sewer utility revenues in order to make those payments on those debt issues. So they're done by a separate bond issue with the pledge of those two utilities. So we provided you with a pre-sale report for each of those 4 bond issues. And each one of them talks about the state statute that authorizes your ability to issue that debt, what statute it's under, what the purpose of the projects are, and the terms of the issue, the call dates, and those types of things. So after this evening, if you choose to move forward with resolutions, as Eric said, this is the first step in the issuance of debt. We will be working with staff to prepare an official statement, which is kind of a prospectus that goes out to the bond, the market for purposes of soliciting bidders on this bonds. And we will conduct a rating review with Standard & Poor's, who has rated your previous debt issues. And on April 2nd, we will be back. We will go out to the market for a competitive sale. We'll be soliciting bids from underwriters and banks throughout the region and as well as nationally. We'll be back on the 2nd of April with the promissory note issue and the bond issue with the final sales results. And you'll be considering resolutions then accepting that. For the the water utility and the sewer utility, we'll be doing the same process. However, we'll be back with the competitive results of a sale on your meeting on April 16th. The reason we're doing that is we don't want to kind of put too much Beloit paper out in the market at the same time, so we're kind of breaking it up into 2 days. But that's kind of the timing of that. That's all spelled out in each one of these pre-sale reports. But I will walk you through the 2018A, which is the note issue, the schedules related to this, to kind of give you the details of what makes up each of these issues. Now, the bonds and the notes will have the exact same schedules, so that's why I'm only walking through the bond issue. But if you turn to the page that's identified as page 6 in this schedule, this is what we refer to as the issue sizing. You'll see 2 columns, one for the promissory note, 2018A, and one for the corporate purpose bonds, which is 2018B. There's a list of all the projects that are being funded and which debt issue is financing each of those projects. Again, bonds are by purpose, so statute is very specific on what things you can issue bonds for. So those are the reasons, those are the ones in the blue column. Each of the issues then, and these I might say too, come right out of your 2018 capital plan. Every line item was identified there. We have issuance expenses included. They're the financial advisory services, your bond attorney services, who's also serving as a disclosure counsel, the rating agency fee with Standard & Poor's, and if there are term bonds, you'll have a paying agent. That fee is built into this. And the underwriter discount, which is the cost, the payment that goes to the underwriter to place the debt out into the market. That's a bid item when we go to a competitive sale, along with the interest rates on this. So this will be adjusted based upon the actual results of the sale, and it's always our hope that the total principal amount will go down. On the bottom, kind of highlighted in yellow, is the breakdown that also kind of correlates with those resolutions for all the purposes on the bonds. On page 7, this is the note issue specifically. We have an allocation. There's a portion that we've identified for the cemetery, a small $65,000 principal amount. We've broken that out, and that's if the cemetery is ultimately supporting the debt service. We wanted to have that allocation for staff available. On the bonds, there is no allocation sheet, so there would not be a similar schedule within that document because it all is levy supported. On page 8, this is just the two issues that you're issuing in 18 and the impact of that. The way this schedule is laid out, we start with all of your existing principal and interest on your debt payments. We make some projections on your equalized tax base that is used to calculate the levy for your debt in the debt levy rate. We've identified the annual principal and interest payments on the existing debt. If there's any source of funds that's paying for that debt service that's not levy related, this could be tax increment financing revenue. If you had any existing debt that was being supported by sewer or water revenue or some other source, that's been identified there. And the net debt service, the amount that actually going into your budget for purposes of making debt service payments, and an equalized tax rate. And again, those are estimated based on our future projections for your tax base. The next set of columns is the structure for those two issues, the general obligation issues, the 2018 promissory notes, and the 2018 B corporate purpose bonds. And you can see that 10-year payback schedule on the notes and the 20-year payback schedule on the bonds. That's the distinction between the two types of issues. We've accounted for the cemetery supporting some of their debt service and then providing you a new net debt service levy amount and an equalized tax rate. And we go through this exercise to make sure that we're within your policies that you've established in your budget for the rate you pay for debt, as well as we also do that for the amount of borrowing you have outstanding, and we have a schedule in for that as well. On page 19, the first half of this schedule is identical to the previous page. What we've gone beyond here is we've taken your longer range capital plan and made some projections on the borrowing for those future debt issues, to also review your levy impact and your tax rate impact to ensure it's falling into your policies. We also do this so we can kind of keep a handle on the parameters that you've established for the amount of outstanding debt that you have at any given time. And that is calculated and projected on page 10 of this document as well. And you'll see here we've got, again, a projection of your full equalized value, including all your tax increment districts. State statute allows you to have a 5% of your equalized value for outstanding debt. We've got your existing outstanding principal on an annual basis. You have an established policy that you will only utilize 70% of that borrowing capacity. And so you can see under that limit, you're currently well below that. And if you do, and again, these will be future decisions beyond the action you take this evening, but the 19 through 22 projections, if you were to undertake all of those as well, you still stay well below that borrowing capacity, which we've calculated over on the towards the right in the red numbers on this column. So 70% is what your parameter is there, and you're well below that going forward. The last schedule in this document on page 11 is just to give you a trend of the last 5 years where the 20-year maturity is on a municipal bond tracking indices. And even though we've seen rates kind of drop down a little bit towards the end of last year, we've seen them coming back up since about mid-December. They still, however, are right around the average of where they've been over the last 5 years. So interest rates are still in a low environment, even though we've seen rates going up. Now, the 2018 B issue, the schedules are identical in that, so I'm not going to walk you through that. But the water revenue bond and the sewer revenue bond schedules, the preliminary information is quite similar in the front, but on page 5 of the water revenue bond, here is our estimate for the sizing of that issue. The par amount of the bonds will be $4,005,000, and not to exceed that amount. You do have some existing water revenue bonds outstanding. When you issue revenue bonds, you borrow for a reserve fund, and that reserve fund sits out there until the bonds are prepaid. It's kind of an additional pledge of security to the investors on these bonds. So we've been able to adjust that, taking your existing debt. We're actually lowering the reserve funds because you've paid off some of your existing water revenue bonds. So we're accounting for that in the sizing. We're taking the funds that are there now and reducing the amount required, as well as then accomplishing the capital plans that you have identified for the borrowing there. So this is how we've determined the sizing. Again, this would be adjusted the day of sale based on sale results. And the structure on page 6, this is the principal and interest projection of payments. I might point out here that you'll see in the earlier years, we're paying a little less in overall principal and interest versus the back end of this issue, about the last 10 years. And the reason for that is the existing debt you have outstanding for your water utility. We're kind of wrapping that around so you're not having a big spike in your payments to the utility. Also pointing out that this is a pledge of your utility revenues. So we've done a calculation to look at the net revenues available for debt service to make sure that it's at least 125. You did incur a rate increase with your water utility in 2017 that went into effect about mid-year. And with the projections at the end of 17, there's definitely adequate coverage for this. It actually looks quite well, and I think that'll prove well when we go to the market and also for the rating. The revenue bonds for the sewer utility is the last issue that is being considered. Again, jumping to page 5 on this is our estimate for the structure. That's a $4,070,000 issue. Right now, the only debt you have outstanding in your sewer utility is a Clean Water Fund loan. That does not have that reserve requirement, so we're establishing the reserve for this issue, and it's built into the sizing of this issue. It's about $290,000. Again, we're estimating issuance expenses. We'll adjust that on the day of sale. And on page 6, you'll see that we've kind of structured this more as a level P&I payment. So there's not that, we're not wrapping around really anything that's outstanding out there now. And it wraps well with your existing Clean Water Fund loan. So a lot of information, I realize, but I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you may have.
At this time, I think what I would like to do, now that we had the presentation, is go through 12B to 12I, improving them on an individual basis. As we do not need a roll call vote for this, but if we get to a number and you have a question on that particular item, I would ask at that time that you ask your questions. That way, at least we'll have the motion on the floor in a second before we can start discussion. So with that being said, we'll start with item 12B, please.
12B is a consideration of a resolution providing for the sale of approximately $2,160,000 general obligation promissory note series 2018A.
Is there a motion for approval? Motion by Presho, second by Duncan. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 6-0. 12C, please.
12C is a consideration of an initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $2,455,000 for street improvement projects.
Motion for approval. Motion by Duncan, second by Jacobson. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 6-0. 12D, please.
12D is a consideration of an initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $225,000 for community development projects.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Blakely. Is there a second? Second by Jacobson. Questions or comments?
Just want to
Council Presho.
Just wanted to get a couple comments in while we do this.
Okay.
This was all part of our budget process, and I just want everybody to know that. This was all at the levels we approved in our budget last fall. And I was hoping that when we get the, in April, when we see the final proposals, we'll have that summary that summarizes our current status in the eyes of the market. It was in the ones we had last year. I can't remember what.
Very good point. That's
it's a great document.
You'll receive that when we go through the rating review with Standard & Poor's.
Mm-hmm.
They will provide you that the credit rating, and they'll do that for your general obligation as well as your sewer and your water utilities. They'll have separate ratings for each of those, and those will be part of the final sale document because we'll have that done between now and that April 2nd meeting.
Yeah, that's a really nice document more people should see, and it's a great resource. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes 6-0. 12E, please.
12E is a consideration of an initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $405,000 for parks and public grounds projects.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Jacobson, second by Preschel. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 6-0. 12G, please.
12F.
12F.
12F is consideration of an initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $235,000 for fire department projects.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Jacobson, second by Anderson. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 6-0. Thank you. Now 12G, please.
12G is consideration of a resolution directing publication of notice to electors relating to bond issues and providing for the sale of not to exceed $3,320,000 general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2018B.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Jacobson. Is there a second by Blakely? Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes 6-0. 12H.
12H is consideration of a resolution providing for the sale of approximately $4,005,000 water system revenue bonds, Series 2018C.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Duncan, second. Second by Preschel. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 6-0. 12I, please.
12I is consideration of a resolution providing for the sale of approximately $4,070,000 sewerage system revenue bonds, Series 2018D.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Jacobson. Is there a second? Second by Anderson. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 6-0. Thank you. We now at this time we'll go back to agenda item 6, consent agenda, please.
All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered at this point on the agenda.
Thank you. Is there anyone would like anything removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, the consent agenda will consist of items 6A through 6H. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Jacobson. Is there a second by Duncan? Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 6-0. Item 7, licenses, please. 7A.
7A is a consideration of a resolution approving applicants for an alcohol beverage operator's bartender's license for the period of February 13th through the 28th, 2018. You have 18 recommendations for approval before you tonight.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Blakely. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Pass. Item 8, the ordinances. 8A, please.
8A is a consideration of an ordinance amending the zoning district map to change the zoning district classification from C3 Community Commercial District to PUD Planned Unit Development District for property located at 1500 4th Street.
Mrs. Christensen, please.
Batterman's, on behalf of the School District of Beloit, has applied for this rezoning from C3 Community Commercial District to PUD Planned Unit Development District for the property located at 1500 4th Street. What the school district is proposing the construction of a 2-story, 25,000 square foot office building to house administrative offices, board meeting rooms, training facilities, and other miscellaneous functions. The plan also includes off-street parking lot containing 112 stalls with new driveways on 4th Street and Shore Drive. The building footprint also includes the right-of-way that is requested to be vacated. PUD is a special purpose zoning district that permits greater flexibility in land planning and site design standards and conventional zoning districts, and is intended to provide flexibility in architectural design. The PUD process, which you may recall, has a number of steps. The first involves the approval of a PUD master land use plan, which is later on your agenda. The second is the rezoning to PUD, and the third will be the final site plan review process that staff goes through with the applicant. The zoning step is a necessary part of it. The school district has proposed to go this route with their building because the Beloit 2020 and the City Center Council has worked for a long time on trying to focus on city center planning. As we looked at the corridor, even though it is zone C3, which requires a 30-foot setback, this seemed to be that it should be developed more in a city center style, with buildings being located closer to the sidewalk. That is just not something that the C3 zoning allows. And so they were going with the PUD zoning in order to allow this development to be fitting with the traditional development pattern of the city center. And so I don't know if you want me to walk through all of the PUD stuff, or you want to save the plan for later on the agenda?
Save it for
Okay,
later.
so this is just the zoning piece that would rezone it to PUD.
We've heard the presentation. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Anderson. Is there a second? Second by Duncan. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? 8A passes 6-0. Item 8B, please.
8B is a consideration of an ordinance to amend Section 13.02 and 13.07 Sub 3 of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Beloit related to certain parking areas and restrictions in the City Hall parking lot located at 100 State Street. This is the second reading.
Mr. Flash, please.
Thank you. This will allow for an adjustment to parking in the City Hall parking lots. The north lot where there's assigned parking or reserved parking, permit parking that is currently used by staff, will have the restriction removed from 24 hours a day to being only during normal work hours, Monday through Friday, allowing citizens to park there in the off hours. It also allows for oversized vehicles to be parked in the police area on the southeast side of the City Hall. This is currently all reserved for city police vehicles only. So it allows that oversized vehicles to be parked there also. Staff recommends approval of the ordinance. That's all I have.
Heard the presentation. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Jacobson. Is there a second? Second by Blakely. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 6-0. 8C, please.
8C is a consideration of an ordinance to amend certain sections of the Index of Special Locations, Section 13.02 of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Beloit relating to no parking restrictions along Freeman Parkway, north of Fuller Drive. This is the second reading.
Thank you. Attorney Krieger, please.
At the meeting 2 weeks ago, Council discussed the request of the apartment complex owner to remove the no parking area on Freeman Parkway on the east side of the road. Staff had made a recommendation to keep the no parking area for a variety of reasons, which you have already heard. Council recommended that this matter be brought back to the Traffic Review Committee for a compromise. Staff did. If you look at the map in your packet that's marked amended recommendation, the compromise allowed the removal of the no parking zone in the area north of the Old Manors driveway and also north of that sidewalk that is just right across the street from that. So essentially opening 2 stalls on the west side and 3 stalls on the east side. That recommendation failed to pass at Traffic Review Committee by a vote of 2-2. So tonight, you have the second reading of the original ordinance before you. If council would like to pursue the compromise, I have drafted the appropriate language to make the change to the ordinance that's before you this evening. And as soon as that motion is made.
Do you have that language?
Hold it. Wait. Let her finish the presentation first, and then what I'll do is call for approval of the original, and then at that particular time, when I call for the approval of the original, at that time, Council Presso, you can definitely make a motion to amend the original one, and then we could vote on that amendment, and then come back after we vote on the amendment to vote on the entire thing as a whole.
So I do have the amended language available if council's desire is to use that compromise agreement as the new ordinance. With that, I will take any questions.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now, and Attorney Krieger, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to call since this is the second reading of the original item that was brought forth, I'm going to call for a motion to approve the original.
Correct.
At that time, then Council Preschel, if he's inclined to put forth an amendment, at that time he could say that.
You'll need a motion and a second to get the matter on the floor for
Right.
discussion purposes.
And then we can vote on an amendment.
Correct. And if an
Correct.
amendment is desired, then you'll need a motion and a second related to the amendment. You'll have to vote that up or down and then go back to the original merits of the amended ordinance.
Got it. So is there a motion and a second? The motion by Jacobson, second by Duncan. Now, Council Preschel,
Yes, I would like you to read.
can you turn your mic on, please?
Yeah, could you read the amended motion that you prepared so we can, I'd like to make a motion, we consider it?
Sure. The amended language of the ordinance, if you're looking at the ordinance in front of you, it says Freeman Parkway from Fuller Drive to 365 feet north of Fuller Drive west side. That language would be a change to 310 feet. And then the second sentence there, instead of 365 feet on the east side, it would be 295 feet on the east side. So it would be simply just changing those footage numbers from 365 to 310 on the west and from 365 to 295 on the east.
And that language matches what we see on the map that's provided by staff, and
Right,
with the
the-
triangle of visibility and the
Correct.
and it doesn't change any parking in any other place except those two areas that are outlined on this map right now.
Right, on the amended recommendation map that you see, the two black bars that are just north of the Manor Drive driveway on the west side, and then the three stalls on the east side. That language would encompass those areas to now be parking. Parking would be allowed.
And otherwise, nothing on that street, on either side of that street, anywhere else would be changing from what it currently is. Just those two small areas, right?
We are,
And some language.
the draft ordinance basically updates some language, but essentially from Fuller Drive north to the north side of the old Manor Drive driveway, into that sidewalk that's directly across the street, that would all still be no parking. And then to the north of those areas I just mentioned, there would be essentially 2 stalls on the west side and 3 stalls on the east side.
Okay.
And that would kind of coincide to, I think at the last meeting, what the owner of the properties was discussing why he would want parking there. That kind of encompasses what he kind of talked about as well, correct?
His stated reasons for wanting the parking was a convenience for those 2 buildings that you see in that area, being able to park on the street to get easier access for unloading of groceries and things. And so this would certainly assist in that regard. It does not give him the entirety of his request due to the portion of the roadway that's in the vision triangle, but it does certainly meet the compromise that I believe that Councilor Preschel was looking for.
Okay.
Thank you.
So there's a proposed amendment on the floor. There's a motion for that. Is there a second to support that amendment?
Second.
It's second by Blakely. Any questions or comments on the amendment? So right now, we're voting on the amended version.
We're voting to
Amend the
agree
original.
to amend the draft ordinance to include those 2 areas,
Correct.
just to the north of those locations I mentioned.
Councilor Jacobson.
Make sure that I'm clear that there is currently parking on the west side up above the new area, if you will. We don't see any cars parked there in our map, and also in person, I never see cars on the west side. That's just,
Sure, I think it's a convenience issue for the apartment occupants, but just to the north of those 2 black bars that are on the amended recommendation map, all of that area allows for parking on either side of the roadway. And so this is just extending that down, again, to the north of the Manor Drive parking, or driveway, and that sidewalk directly across the street.
for the sake of conversation, I would just say that if cars were parked on both sides, that would be concerning to me, having driven that area several times since this whole thing came to play. But it seems like people generally park on the east side. If we're going by habits, that's
I think
My addition.
anecdotally, that would be a fair statement.
That's my addition.
Okay.
That was what prompted me to ask that question, because I'd never seen any cars on the west side either. So I wanted to make sure we weren't changing something further up the line there that we weren't aware of.
Okay, there is a motion and a second for the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes 6-0. Now to the original, to the new amended version of the ordinance. Is there a motion for approval? Motion by Duncan. Is there a second? Second by Blakely. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 6-0. Thank you. And I would like to also thank staff and everyone who worked on this. I realize it was a lengthy discussion. And then we heard from residents as well. So I want to thank everyone who had an input on this compromise. And I think just wanted to commend you all for the job you did. So thank you. With that, we're at item 8D.
8D is a consideration of an ordinance to amend certain sections of the Index of Special Locations, Section 13.02 of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Beloit relating to the removal of the no parking designations on Lee Lane and Blarney Stone Drive.
Mr. Flesh, please.
Thank you. As she said, it's the second reading. This is for removing no parking around the old Morgan School. The other school-associated signs were able to be removed without an ordinance change, but the no parking was required to be done by ordinance, and so it needs to be removed by ordinance also. Traffic review recommended approval 5-0.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Anderson. Is there a second by Duncan? Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes 6-0. 8E, please.
8E is a consideration of an ordinance to amend certain sections of the Index of Special Locations, Section 13.02 of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Beloit, establishing no parking along Brannigan Road. And this is a second reading.
Mr. Flesh.
This ordinance is to establish the no parking on the west side of Brannigan Road between Milwaukee and Wayetta. It was found when staff was updating on the signage in that area that there wasn't an ordinance for the signs that were already in place along the west side, and this will allow them to be replaced and be legally enforced. Traffic Review Committee approved it 5-0.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Presho, second by Jacobson. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 6-0. 9, appointments. I don't believe we have any.
There are no appointments at this time.
Item 10, council activities and upcoming events. Councilor Jacobson.
I just have one update. I went to BIF this weekend and I saw all the Queen's horses, which was about our, I guess, sort of a neighbor, the city of Dixon. And I just, today I already have a client ask me about it. And so I thought I would remind people that at the city of Beloit, there is a separation of duties. So when we spend money, there is more diversity than there was, as you know, in the city of Dixon, if you watch the movie. Also, employees at the city of Beloit have a limited amount of authority that they can approve. And also, we have a professional manager and a professional finance director, both of which are here tonight. And so certainly fraud can happen anywhere, but we have much more security in place than they did in Dixon. And also, I'm happy to see that the city of Dixon is kind of making a comeback, and although they have sort of a black eye, that they've been able to make a little comeback from the whole situation. It was an interesting movie to watch as city councilor. So anyone who's watching and watched that is worried about us, you know, don't worry.
Sure.
If I may, I had the opportunity to also view the film, which I found incredibly disturbing. And one thing that I thought was so very difficult for me to understand was a process that would allow one signatory on any kind of exchange of funds, and to have, as you indicated, the same person getting the mail, issuing the bills, receiving the funds. There were simply no internal controls or checks and balances. So yes, I would like the public to rest assured that we have multiple signatories that are required throughout the entire organization and a complete segregation of duties. So thank you, Councilor Jacobson, for bringing that up.
Thank you. Councilor Anderson.
Don't really have too much. Just wrapped up coaching hockey season. We finished the season playing against the kids, and I would like you to know that the adults did demolish the kids, so that was good. We did beat them bad, so that was a good highlight at the end of the season. But coming up in a couple weeks, I'll be heading down to a conference in New Orleans to talk about criminal justice. So I'm hoping to bring some interesting knowledge back to the city of Beloit. So I'm looking forward to doing that in a couple weeks. That's all I got.
Councilor Blakely.
Last week I was able to attend the open houses for homes that have been redone on Euclid and Highland, the 300 block of each. I was very impressed, as were other people I didn't know before then who were walking through, to see how these homes that were once dilapidated and real eyesores in the neighborhoods have been strongly improved by our city departments. Thank you.
Councilor Preschel.
Well, I also attended the open houses on the west side, and there's a hope that these wonderful rehabs will inspire others to come in and lift up that neighborhood and copy some of the was maybe not quite as big an improvement required, but and lift up the whole neighborhood. There's still a lot of work to be done over there and on the west side in general, but it's really good. Euclid looks so much better. Euclid and Highland, and actually the other one, Kenwood, they all look much better than they did 5 years ago, and they continue to improve. So that's encouraging, and it takes a lot of work. These buildings cost a lot of money. A lot of federal dollars went into them, and it's easy to see why. I just hope it works. Your new grandbabies are named Hope and Faith, was it? And that's what's gonna. Yeah, it's gonna take some. Oh yes. Oh, that's the new ones. Yes. Mm-hmm. I worked with the Hope and Faith at Staples for a number of years, and it helped us. So let's hope it helps us neighborhood too. So anyway, let's hope the snowstorm stops by the time we get out of here, and we can enjoy spring again. Thank you.
I was just like so confused. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, what did that? Okay.
Mr. President.
Councilor Blakely. I don't know where this is going, but okay.
Very fast. I just wanted to say congratulations to Regina and to Ms. Duncan for the birth of her twin grandbabies, whom she's probably going to tell us about them.
Well, now that you just stolen thunder there, Sherry, it's okay.
I don't know who has twin grandbabies.
Okay.
I don't know their name.
Vice President Duncan, we're really going to get away from
I'm thrilled to death. I'd be talking all night if I was talking about grandbabies. So, yeah. Okay, I got enough notes. I don't want to scare you. Okay. First, I just wanted to say I had a chance to participate because last time we had to talk quickly and briefly, but I just want to mention that I participated in the Black History programs at Aldridge and McNeil middle schools, and that was such a great experience. And I just want to thank it was Alicia Wash and also Audrey Vaughn for inviting me. So that was a wonderful opportunity. And then also this last, I think this was on Friday, I was at Book Quest at the Beloit Public Library. So thanks to Nick Dismasses and the staff there at the library. It was really, I think the kids really held to the pressure. We had some award winners. We gave prizes out for first, second, and third. They had to know the author, the titles, and the authors of the books. That was really tough. And I don't even think I knew one, so I don't think I'm smarter than they are. So, and then also I want to mention, too, that Councilor Forbeck isn't here tonight. She has surgery, and we just want to let her know that she's in our prayers. We're praying for her health and her strength. And then also I want to thank Julie and the staff with the work with the NARSA project. I also had the opportunity to attend the open house with Councilor Blakely, and I saw you, Councilor Preschel there, and I think I saw you too, Councilor Levy. You would really, in order to really appreciate what those houses look like now, you really have to see it before, because it really look good. I talked with a lot of residents that were coming in, got to meet a lot of new people, and some of the people that lived in the neighborhood, and they were just very thrilled with that process. They did mention, however, that they had concerns and wanted to make sure we were keeping them safe, and I'm sure our chief would do a good job in making sure that happens. Then I also want to mention I had a chance to attend the Latino Providers Luncheon, the awards luncheon with Cecilia Ramirez. They honored Tasha Bell, so that was a wonderful event, and they had the Even Start dancers. They are just magnificent if you haven't seen them. And then also, I would like to mention, I serve on the Appointment Review Committee. I always talk about this. There are vacancies. So often we talk about some of the things that aren't going well. So if you want to make an impact and want to help in being part of the solution, we certainly encourage you to join one of our city committees. All you need to do is go to our website. And then also I want to mention, I forgot this at the last meeting, but we had Dorothy Harrell to come and talk during public comments, and she mentioned about the diversification of the staff, and in particular, she talked about the fire department. I just want to say a special thank you to our city manager for her leadership efforts in making that happen, because I think that she really should be recognized for that. We have really, as a council, been talking about diversifying and making the workforce look like our community. And so she really stepped up to the plate and got that done. So thank you so much for that. And then also, we have some students here tonight. And so I want to say to the students, we are so honored to have you here. And perhaps one day, sooner than later, you'll be sitting in our seats. So thank you all for coming. That's all I have.
Thank you. Just a couple things. First of all, tonight, everyone, please be careful out there. As we see, winter is not done yet, so let's be careful when we leave. Also, I said it before, and I want to commend every department of the city that's taking the opportunity to utilize the city's Facebook page. This week, I saw the swearing in of the fire department, new recruits, so that's another way to get things out to the public. Our communications person does a great job. I don't know when she sleeps. We're getting emails and stuff on the weekends, but that is the way the community knows what's going on. So I would encourage all departments to continue to do that. It just does my heart good when I go out on Facebook and see the city site pop up and saying, here's what's going on in the city by various meetings and what's taking place. That's the only way we're going to get the word out. Not the only way, but that's a sure, quick way of getting the word out and letting people know what's going on in the city. So I'm going to encourage everyone to continue to do that. Also, thank the city staff. I know as counselors, there's a lot of times we ask for information and we keep asking for it. And you guys, the staff of the city is very professional and they're willing to help. And we realize that you have tons of other stuff that you could be doing, but it seems as though when we are asking for stuff, you're readily available to help us out. And trust me, I know. They will never say it, but I know that there are times that I'm sure they say, oh my God, here we go again. But I appreciate it from everyone, from the city manager, city attorney, every department here. There's no department that I've gone to ask for information that I didn't get it. So I just want everybody to know that the counselors greatly appreciate that. But then I would also tell the counselors, let's really be careful, because if we ask them for information, they're going to try to get it for all of us, and they're going to make sure that they get the information that we need. So I would encourage us that if it's not really important, that we don't put too much pressure on them, because they have a lot of stuff to do as we move forward. So with that being said, and she'll yell at me after the meeting, but I want to thank Julene also for filling in this evening for Lori. And a lot of people don't know that that's a big seat to fill in down there, because there's a lot of things that's going on where I'm looking at the clerk a lot of times saying, is my mic on? And so they kind of help direct the meeting. So they may not say a lot at the meeting, or you may not see them on camera, but they do a lot down there directing the meeting and making sure that we stay on top of the agenda. But I just want to commend the staff for what you do each and every day for this great city. But once again, when you leave, please be careful. Until the students, the adjournment is coming up, but it's only 8 o'clock, so I think we're just going to probably prolong it to about midnight, because we think you guys should just stay here and get the full effect of what we go through. But no, as Vice President Duncan said, it's greatly appreciative for you to come out to these meetings, and I say it over and over again. If you want to see something done in the city, it's going to be your city in the future. Please come forward and just let us know what you want to see, because whether you believe it or not, we all look like we're 21, but we are getting up there in age, so some of our thoughts may be not what you're looking for. So please let your voice be heard so we know which way to take the city in the future, because pretty soon this whole city is going to be yours and we're not going to be here. So please let your voice be heard. And with that, we move to item 11.
Just quickly.
Okay, city manager.
I don't have a formal report for you this evening, but I wanted to share in support of Council President's comments. We know that in the first 2 months of 2018, the City of Beloit's government Facebook page has increased its viewership by 13%. And in fact, one of the posts related to one of our snow emergencies was seen by 54,000 individuals. So I think that that kind of usage and the frequent updates, that certainly is a testament to Sarah Millard being here as our new Director of Strategic Communications, and also Pam Lathrop, who is routinely updating the Facebook post as well. So I wanted to give a shout out to the two of them specifically for helping us to utilize that tool in a more effective way.
Thank you. Item 11 is city manager's presentation. I don't believe we have one this evening. Item 12A, please.
12A is consideration of a resolution authorizing a planned unit development PUD master land use plan for the property located at 1500 4th Street.
Mrs. Christensen.
So this is the actual plan. This is a resolution approving the actual master land use plan, which would allow the construction of a two-story, 25,000 square foot office building to house administrative offices, board meeting rooms, training facilities, and other miscellaneous functions, as well as parking lot, an accessory parking lot. I'm happy to, the school board did approve phase 1 of the campus master plan. They have approved building this building at this location. I personally like the idea of having our admin buildings in the middle of the city. And because when I came here, I had no idea where it was or how to find it. So I do think it will be helpful for our newer residents when it's right there in the middle of the city. So as I said before, the PUD district is a special purpose zoning district that permits greater flexibility in terms of site design and how the land is laid out. The site plan is included. I believe it's included in your packet. So here is the layout. It is included in your packet, and there's some renderings of what the building will look like. This was sent out to our review agents, and the city engineer is requesting the installation of sidewalk connections from the proposed building entrance to the public sidewalk along 4th Street and to the new off-street parking lots on the subject property. As I mentioned, I think during the street vacation staff report, the building footprint conflicts with an existing storm sewer main between inlets on Maple Avenue and 4th Street. We're recommending a condition of approval that will require relocation of the affected storm sewer main. There are some conditions, some things that you need to meet, which is you have to show that the plan represents an improvement over what could have been accomplished with strict application of the standards of the zoning ordinance. We believe, although it could be developed under those strict standards, it would not be anywhere near as interesting or as accessible to the public, because having that be right on that corner, I think, is really important. We do think it meets all the standards. It is consistent with the comprehensive plan, which suggests office uses for this site. And Plan Commission reviewed this and recommended at their last meeting and recommended approval, subject to the conditions which are listed in the resolution before you tonight, which is that this approval authorizes the construction of a school district of Beloit office building and related parking lots, as shown on the attached PUD master land use plan and architectural renderings. No other commercial or residential uses are allowed on the subject property. And you may recall that what you approved tonight is what gets built, or it has to come back through your public process. Prior to the issuance of a building permit for this project, the applicant shall obtain an architectural review certificate and a certificate of zoning compliance. This development is allowed one freestanding monument sign up to 15 feet in height and 150 square feet in area, which may not include an electronically variable message component. The building may include up to 3 wall signs of up to 45 square feet per sign. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall relocate the existing storm sewer main that conflicts with the building footprint and shall obtain approval of an easement release. The applicant shall obtain city engineer approval of and permits for all public utility work. The site plan shall include all of the sidewalk connections requested by the city engineer. The minimum building setbacks shall be those shown on the attached PUD master land use plan. The maximum height shall be 3 stories, and the site shall retain at least 20% open space. Also included in your packet was a request from them explaining what the changes were in the setbacks. The applicant shall comply with all DNR requirements pertaining to storage, hauling, and disposal of contaminated soil, and then your standard condition about major changes coming back through this public process and minor changes being able to be approved administratively. And this is on your agenda for action tonight.
Is there a motion to approve?
So,
Motion by Jacobson, is there a second?
second.
Second by Duncan. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 6-0. Believe we're down to item 13 with a motion to adjourn. Motion by Duncan, is there a second? Second by Preschel. All in favor of adjournment say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we adjourn. Thank you.